Hi, I'm going to review Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars, a 1979 young adult or teen novel by Daniel M. Pinkwater. Uh, this is a reread for me. I read this back in the 80s as a young adult, as a teen, and it's definitely ranks up there as one of my favorite books from my youth. I'm going to put down this incredibly fragile copy because it's my original copy that's coming to bits. I need to actually stick that together, and I will actually hold up what I actually read it from, which is five novels by Daniel Pinkwater, which this is a big hunk of the very beginning there of that's of the book. So in Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars, Leonard Niebel, our narrator, moves to the suburbs and ends up going to Bat Masterson Junior High School, where he does not fit in. He is a chubby kid who doesn't dress the approved teen way in this suburban neighborhood. He's bullied by his classmates. Even the geeks don't associate with each other because they're just desperate to get up, try and climb up that ladder. The teachers all ignore him, and he's generally miserable, and indeed ends up with all failing grades and gets sent to Dr. Prince, a psychiatrist, after an interview with the guidance counselor at the school. He is basically, oh, you are a misfit and you must be mentally ill because you do not fit in, seems to be the message. After having been pretty well-adjusted kid in a more kind of a city area where, kids would just sort of hang around and do stuff, and kids could be, you could have different cultures, different interests, and you could kind of all hang around together. But no, we're in kind of the suburbia in this book where everyone has to be the same. Now, luckily for Leonard, there's another new kid that comes to school, the title character, Alan Mendelsohn, who is equally a misfit, equally does not fit in with the school, has a habit of getting up in the middle of class and doing long lectures about historical facts about characters that you just do not, about historical figures that you do not want to hear about. He had plenty of stuff to say about the founding fathers and how, a lot of them were slave owners, which runs counter to the syllabus that the teacher there is carefully reading from. We're only going to do the approved history. We're not going to stray outside of that. And I can tell these are all the parts of this novel that really stuck with me from that original reading from back in the 1980s. And he's also Alan Mendelsohn. He's like, he doesn't take bullying lying down either. He plays tricks on the kids. He has certain kinds of whistles that will trip kids up. A missile, he'll whistle just at the right moment when someone's about to do something, distract them, and they'll fall over. Or he'll come up to kid, turn sideways quickly, and they'll just go tumbling. And he's doing this to kids who have been mean to him. So you accept it as kind of the fun it is. He also is good at he makes some general kind of declarative statements to students and ends up causing a gigantic riot of the people who believe him and the people who don't believe him. And there's just a giant riot, and he ends up getting suspended from school for a week, which he's like, how is being suspended from school a punishment? I don't have to go to the place that I don't like for a week. And at the same time, Leonard is also given the time off by his kind of quack psychiatrist, Dr. Prince, who is also allowing him to smoke. There's a lot of cigar smoking in this novel for teens. You can tell this was written in 1979. So they end up going to the kind of the larger center, Hogborough, to do a kind of a comic run, which is like another thing of this book that's just so great for geeky me. Is like, this is my idea of like, oh yeah, going down to the secondhand bookstore, which has got all the secondhand books and all the comics, all the secondhand comics, and kind of getting to kind of go through all that stuff is just all so much nostalgia waves for me, I guess. Probably also for Daniel Pinkwater, I'm assuming. but what happens is they get enmeshed in the world of an occult. There's an occult bookstore there run by Samuel Klugarsh, who is sort of this con artist figure who maybe is ripping them off when he sells them the stuff like, oh, this is the Klugarsh mind control thing, which looks like a radio that's just had like a little couple of wires, transistor radio that's had just a couple of wires, and you're supposed to hold on to the wires and go into state 26, and it's like he's just ripping us off, isn't he? Well, he sort of is ripping them off, but he is also not, and it opens up this sort of weird alternate world, alternate worlds that might be Atlantis, Lemuria, Waka Waka. Might take them to the just other planes of existence. But it's sort of the genius of the book is that Daniel Pinkwater is able to make this kind of both. It's fantastical, but it's kind of mundane fantastical. It's like this is something that's going to have been sold to you by a con artist, but is also sort of kind of true, but just in a disappointing kind of way, which is something I kind of love about this book, because it's like, it's the fantastical, but it isn't Harry Potter swelling of music. It's more like, oh yeah, well, we met these guys and we drank some crappy hot chocolate. And it's like, yeah, that was kind of the adventure. And there's great villains, but the villains turn out not to be as really that much either, but we can help out the kind of the lame loser people who are on this plane of existence. And you know what? I really don't want to be here. I want to be back on my own plane of existence. I just kind of, I love that. And it's a book which kind of is I can see this has kind of encouraged me to kind of you dig deep into stuff to find out exactly how odd and weird and kind of sad and sordid the world could be in a way. So this was a delight, because I think you go back to certain children's books, young adult books, and you kind of go, oh, that was okay. And I mean, the writing in this is nothing to write home about. It's very kind of declarative sentences. It's very workmanlike writing, but just the thought, the mind behind it, and that just kind of slightly askew world of like, you know what, things aren't the approved plain down version. And I mean, yes, it's kind of there's the whole thing of like, oh, suburbia, but this, I think, especially for me as a kid, caught in a kind of suburbia, in a very kind of like, we want to make everything as normal as possible, but living in this world and going, but I'm not normal, and I'm not a superhero, I'm not amazing, but I'm just like, I'm not normal. I'm not normal. And this book was kind of that lifeline for me, of a thing. And, indeed, I had friends that were from Mars, and I was Leonard Niebuhr struggling to try to figure out what the hell was going on. So, yes, a really happy reread for me of Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars. And I don't think you can find it as an individual copy anymore. You would have to look for it as in a kind of a collected omnibus like this. Or I think on his website, actually, Daniel Pinkwater actually has audio versions if you were interested in picking it up. I'll put a link down to that below. I don't know what kind of quality they are, but that might be fun. So yeah. It's an interesting book in its way as well, because I was struck this time through it. It's like, oh, this is a story about two boys, and there's no girls in this book. There's adult women in this book. There's the grandparents, who are great kind of just alternate characters, raw food aficionados, and collectors. There's so many collectors in this book, which, if you're a book nut like me, it's like collecting is definitely something there. But there's no girls in this book, which I just took for granted as a kid growing up in the 80s, where there was that heavy segregation of boys and girls, even though I did actually have a best friend who was a girl, but that was kept very, very secret. But yeah, it's a boy's story, I guess, is the only other sort of sad thing to say about it. And as growing up in the 80s, I just took that as a normal thing, which is like, that's something that shouldn't be normal either. All right, more videos later.